That dark sky.
Dark sky and plunging temperatures in some places over the last couple of days. That drop will have had an impact on when we think about switching the heating on, and that's something that for lots of households is going to be real worry again this winter.
Because it's expensive.
Yeah.
Ben is here to explain what the situation is now. Morning, Ben.
Yeah, morning. It's a conversation many households will have been having over the weekend with those temperatures, you say, starting to drop. Do you turn the thermostat up? Do you try and put it off to save a bit of money? And it's a very real concern for many people, and let me explain why. Because in the past few days, we've heard from the watchdog Ofgem about the ballooning amount of energy debt that many people are in. It says over 2 million households have fallen behind with their energy bills over the summer, between them owing £2.6 billion in total. And Scope, the disability equality charity, says the debt problem is even worse for people with disabilities. People ringing them for advice and support over their gas and electricity bills say they have, on average, almost £1,800 of energy debt. That is more than double the average amount in September last year. This is for people with disabilities. The government says energy bills are falling, and from today, more than 3 million households will get told they qualify for the Warm Home discount. It's a one-off payment of £150. Eligible low-income customers in England and Wales get it automatically. People in Scotland may need to apply. There's extra money available for people with disabilities and those on means-tested benefits as well. But Scope told us that not all people with disabilities receive that Warm Home discount because the main disabilities benefits they receive no longer automatically qualify them for the scheme. The BBC's cost of living correspondent Coletta Smith has been looking into this and finding out more.
They've just been delivered, so we have to restock the fridge.
Susan relies on electricity. Everything from her medication to her wheelchair needs power.
It has to be kept fully charged. We plug that in.
Living on disability payments, she can't cut down on energy.
I owe £300 on my gas bill and I owe £145 on my electric. Where am I meant to get the money to pay that? I'm scared to use anything. It's a living hell, an absolute living hell. The mental anguish that you go through is very detrimental to your physical being. And if you've got physical health issues, my health has declined a lot in the last year.
And you felt more alone?
Mm.
These frontline advisors say energy arrears have spiralled for those with disabilities in the last 12 months.
They got into debt last year and it's just been building as the year's gone on.
A lot of the families that we are talking to, it doesn't matter what season it is, they still need the same amount of energy.
There's something every day just from speaking to people who are using candles because they don't want to put the lights on. You know, speaking to people who are considering stealing food so they can afford to top the meter up.
Does it feel like there's much you can offer people who are ringing for help?
There's definitely not as much support this year. There is always that possibility that potentially we can identify some income that they're not receiving.
The government promised a consultation about having a cheaper social tariff for those in need, but that's not happened.
The government's broken its promise. In the long term, a social energy tariff is what's needed to support disabled people. In the short term this winter, there needs to be more financial support.
The government says it spent £40 billion helping households last winter and is continuing to help the most vulnerable. But it doesn't feel that way to Susan.
It's a bit like being on a life support machine and you just pull in the plug on it. How can we live like this?
Coletta Smith, BBC News in East London.
Well, we're joined now by Adam Scorer, who's the Chief Executive of National Energy Action. It's an energy poverty charity. It's very good to have you with us. I mean, some really sort of heart-wrenching stories there from people. Are those exceptions, or is that typical of the kinds of situations that you're hearing about?
It's typical of millions of people. And it's true to say that energy prices have come down, but energy bills have not, because the government's energy bill support scheme has gone away. So people are in exactly the same situation as they were last winter. That's prices £800 higher than the pre-energy crisis levels. £2.6 billion of debt. That's up 70% since the energy crisis started. So the situation is the same, if not worse, for many of the most vulnerable households. And in the absence of that energy bill support scheme or progress on a social tariff, there's very little support to take money off people's bills. We have the warm home discount scheme that's gone up £10 over the 10-year period. So government just has to face facts. This winter is every bit as bad as last winter. It needs immediate financial support for the most vulnerable, the people in greatest jeopardy, and we need some enduring solutions.
I mean, the government did highlight that warm home discount, the £150 payment. It also said that there are various other payments that people on the lowest incomes may be eligible for, in some cases totalling £900 over the course of the year. But when we have a situation where people with disabilities, on average, have an energy debt of almost £1,800, and that's before we even get into the end of autumn and into the winter, how does that happen? How can that much energy debt be built up in the period of the year when energy use is lower?
Well, this has been the remarkable thing about this summer. The levels of debt and the levels of disconnection have been at remarkable levels. So people with long-term medical conditions or people with disabilities, they usually have to be at home for longer. They may have conditions that are made worse by the cold, or they may have medical equipment that needs to be charged. So there's lots of circumstances to say they're in much greater jeopardy of cold homes and high energy costs. And the government to decide that non-means tested disability benefits are no longer an eligible criteria for the warm home discount was a wrong decision in principle and a mad decision in the middle of the energy price crisis. We need to make sure that people get all the support they need. That's true, but the support that's available at the moment is wholly inadequate. We need a social tariff. We need a way to help people out of debt at pace. We need the regulations and support for the energy market to be built around the most vulnerable, those in greatest jeopardy. And we're not having that at the moment. And the winter, it's cold today. Winter's coming. It's going to be disastrous.
In which case, where do you think the problem is? Is it that just the numbers, the amount of money available isn't enough? Or is it that it's hard for people to work out if they're eligible and to access the support, and the support is there, but they're just not receiving it? What in your view, is the biggest issue that's resulting in this?
There's two different issues. With the warm home discount, in England and Wales, most people will get it automatically, but 300,000 people last year who were eligible for it but didn't get it automatically and had to apply ended up not getting the discount. In Scotland, most people will have to apply for it, but that's £150. So even that small amount of support is racked full of difficulty and complexity, which means people won't get it. But we need a structural solution. We need an accelerated help to repay scheme to get people out of problem debt. And we need to build a social tariff, an enduring way to make sure people on the lowest incomes and in the greatest vulnerability, in jeopardy, get the cheapest rates in the market. We're hoping, with fingers crossed, that this winter will be mild and that we'll get through it. That's not going to be the case. And it's only government. The scale of the issue is so big that it's only government that needs to do targeted support to help the most vulnerable. Not for everybody, not money off everyone's bills, for those people in jeopardy this winter.
OK. Adam, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. Adam Scorer there, the Chief Executive of the energy charity National Energy Action. Now, if you're in one of those situations where you're worried about your energy debt, you've got questions, you need help or advice, have a look at the BBC's Tackling It Together pages. It's there on the BBC News website. Plenty of support and advice for you there whenever you need it. It's well worth having a look.
Thank you, Ben.